podcast.
I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glow.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're the fucking Morning Throners. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We are your Morning Throners, and you got yourself a special edition pod because we don't have any chapters to talk about.
Recap.
Bonus episode. We're gonna wrap up the whole book. We've kind of been talking about it the last few episodes. We didn't know like how we were gonna talk about like kind of wrap up whole plot lines, when we should ask Kyle stuff like, oh, what was your favorite POV and that kind of stuff. So that's what this is for.
So they drug me back to give me the final exam here. I didn't fucking study. I'll tell you that
trivia
right now.
questions.
Well, didn't you watch
the show?
All season 1?
We were gonna do a separate episode for the show. That was
I don't know if we should.
Well, let's see how this one goes. If we don't have a ton to talk about with the books, let's throw some show into it.
Well, so here's where I'm at with the show, and I mean you can leave this in potentially too, but like so, I don't know that I want to watch the next seasons.
Well, you shouldn't.
I mean, I didn't mean right now.
It means like,
but I mean, even if we read
after
the next
second book.
books, like I don't know if I want to watch them.
Why?
Because I still feel like there was stuff in there that like I shouldn't be knowing. Like
Example?
no matter how different it is or like whatever. And Nelson was even talking about how like there's a lot of stuff in the show that doesn't actually happen, and I mean that's very obvious.
Yeah.
There's
or
stuff in
just
the book,
things that
but
you could infer happened because you
So,
don't
like-
get the
like
POV.
Kyle-
yeah, I didn't like it. It like made me like the show was good. It was well put together. It was good. Like I mean the production.
So you
value
liked
was
watching
good.
season 1?
That's what I was getting to. Is like I don't know that I could say that I liked it. It was weird. It was a weird experience. I felt like I said I felt like I was like opening my Christmas gifts early kind of thing, and like
See, I'm trying to think of anything that you could actually get from season 1, and I don't even know.
So what I told Kyle and I talked about this a little bit. When I told Kyle was, there's some stuff that the show just does that the books do differently, and it's gonna be tough for us to tell you like one versus the other. So the one thing that I told you was Cersei has this monologue with Catelyn, and here we are. This is what was gonna be in like the whole next episode.
All right, well, let's just stop.
but I like I said I don't think we're gonna do another one of these. Like
Well, at least let's save it for the end to see how this goes. If we
Okay.
need to fill that,
Yeah.
then we can do it.
All right, so we're going to jump in. Nelson tried to make us do a chapter-by-chapter recap, but in our planning of
There's so
that,
many.
I almost fell asleep, and there's like a million. So
It just took forever.
I
Just think about it. If we spent 1 minute a chapter, that'd be 72 minutes.
Exactly. So
yeah. And Nelson literally was trying to get me to do this on like a Friday night, and I was like, I can't listen to you anymore.
Just from
it's a
doing
Wednesday at 9:15.
just from doing my notes. Just from doing my notes, I have them all. I have them all already. So I was just like, maybe I should just read them all to start that podcast. And I just did it to Jeff, and I got to like 40, and I was like, we were like 10 minutes in, and I was literally just reading like one sentence summary per.
We were
chapter.
like just
And it was
recapping it, like, hey, Bran falls out window, and moved on, and it took forever. And I was like, stop talking to me. I'm going to quit.
yeah, exactly.
So what are we going to do now? We just want to roll some questions?
I think first go through every
Every
character,
POV in
every
general.
characters, right? So I guess like let's recap all of them. So Bran's what's Bran's storyline the whole way through, because he's the first chapter we get.
Yeah, I mean, to start off, Bran, initially he watches the beheading at Ned and he finds the wolf pups, and that's when everyone gets a wolf pup in the Stark family. The next episode is when the king shows up, I think.
No,
Or
that
the
happens,
next
I think, in between. But next Bran is him getting pushed.
That's after seeing Cersei and Jaime.
Yep. So he gets pushed. Everyone leaves Winterfell. He wakes back up in Winterfell after the lady thing on the road.
Well, he's almost getting murdered too.
Yeah, he almost gets murdered. Catelyn saves him. And then
Exactly.
when does he wake up?
In the show, it's right after. It's like literally right after the lady dies, and I think I think it's kind of like chapters are back to back that way as well.
Yeah. So he wakes up. He's paralyzed from the legs down.
Basically, Rob.
Gets a saddle.
Oh yeah, Rob
Hangs out
becomes
with
Lord,
Pyce-
so
or,
he's just hanging out with Pyce. Oh no,
Yeah.
not
Is
Pyce.
it Lewin?
Maester
That's
Lewin.
that's a good point by Kyle. Tyrion comes back from the wall and gives him the saddle before Tyrion goes south and all the shit kicks off.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so at that point he's just chilling with Rob, trying to be accustomed to no legs, and that's when they actually go riding out and meet the wildlings. Right.
Yep, and he gets stabbed in the leg.
That
doesn't
might
feel it at
actually
all.
be a little later on once Ned gets captured, because I think him and Rob are having some serious talks while they're going out there.
Yeah, that's when Theon's like, you need to call the banners type shit. I think it was just when he got attacked in the street.
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
I
Yeah,
don't
you're
think
right.
he got
Yep,
arrested.
Yeah, you're right. It was after Jory died and stuff. Yep. So all that happens, then shit does start kicking off. All of the banners get called. Rob leaves, and the last 2 or 3 are, or maybe last 2 brand chapters are him by himself, where he has the dream. I think that's the last brand chapters. He has the dream of what happens. Rickon has the dream, and be down there.
Yeah, they go down to the crypts. Right.
What do you think about Bran? Like overall, Bran. I mean, I guess a lot of people don't like the kids in the books.
He's kind of just like a narrator. I mean, stuff is happening to him, obviously, but I think he's kind of more there to convey what's happening around him.
He's watching a lot and just observing.
Yeah, and I mean, especially now that that's literally all he does is watch people. So I mean,
that's a good way to put him. He's like a narrator. I like that.
He's not very compelling, but I mean, he has a point of view that's important.
Yeah, and you can tell how like POVs are kind of like spread out in order to cover all important areas in the world at all times, right? So like,
yeah,
it's interesting that Rob doesn't have a POV, right? He's like the oldest Stark like kid. He seems like an obvious one to have a POV. Why not? Well, he leaves Winterfell, then you have him and Kat in the same place. You learn the same information from both characters. Take one of those out and put it at Winterfell. I think that's something, and again, you don't really see that right at the beginning because everyone's together but as like the books go on and people get further and further apart, it's more like you seem to get like you don't get many multiple POVs in the same location.
And I've said that multiple times, and I always thought Rob was a cool one to get just because he's actually in the shit. Like, we get a lot of observers and we only get a couple people that are actually in the fray.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool that Tyrion was in the fray and we got his version of the battle. But never getting Rob's was, I think it would be cool, especially because he was a young kid and probably scared shitless the first time.
The Whispering Wood, that would have been like an awesome one to like.
Yeah.
But how many battles can you read through and have it be exciting? I guess like that's probably a hard.
I think
thing
you would.
to
I don't think
repeat.
you would get any more than the ones we got, the Whispering Woods, and then how do we learn about?
I think there's
the
only
siege
2
of
in
the-
this, right?
Whispering Wood and Green Fork is one Tyrion's in, and I think that's why I think.
Well, and River Run.
Yeah,
And
and
River,
the
yeah.
siege of breaking the siege.
But would have been cool if we got his description of the wolves attacking people. That would have been sick. Or like even a shit character fucking POV of watching
One
a
thing
wolf.
why I think it's cool that you don't get Rob is because, like Jeff's saying, it's cool to get like what was he thinking when in that battle. He's probably thinking very similar shit to Tyrion. Maybe not the exact same shit, but like him and Tyrion are similar age. Tyrion's not that old. Like he's way older in the show, so the Tyrion's only like 20.
I mean, he's got to be young
22 or
20s,
23, right? Rob's like
All right,
15.
young 23-year-old versus a 16 or 14-year-old, whatever.
And we can go through Kat next. I think it's interesting. I know you don't like Kat, but I think it's probably more interesting to see, like when Kat's talking about the battle, she's like, I wonder if Rob ever kissed a girl. We don't know, right? It's kind of like more interesting as a reader to be like, you know,
you get some ambiguity about Rob. Yeah, where we hear stories about Tyrion's past, and we don't get the history of Rob.
Definitely opens it up for more speculation on like what's going on with him, I guess. Like you said, Nelson.
It's kind of like the suspense aspect. A lot of suspenseful movies won't show something, so your imagination runs with it instead of giving you a concrete definition of what happened.
And I think that's probably better for a lot of the battle and fight scenes. You just give like a massive overview at the end of kind of like what happened, and then fill in the blanks yourself. And I mean, like I said, it kind of seems blasphemous to say that like you don't want to read like the fighting over and over again, but like I truly just think it would get old.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be differences at least.
Yeah,
the same thing will definitely get old.
Like it's kind of cool that we got Kat's like her watching it, like and like she was just really watching it, no out of control at all. But then I thought it was cool the way Tyrion's immersed in it, and then you really find out about breaking the siege of River Run like afterwards, right? They like recap it to somebody
from a messenger.
You get kind of each battle a completely different way.
Yeah. All right, let's go through Kat's. Basically, her and Bran, similar Winterfell story. She's like tied to Bran. As soon as he falls, she's like by his side, protected.
Well, she gets the message.
Oh yeah, the
from
letter.
Her sister.
Yep.
And her first chapter is like a really short chapter where she just goes to see Ned in the Godswood after he cuts off the guy's head, and basically she's saying,
That's when she tells him about Jon Arryn, right?
Well, I think the whole point of the chapter is, I'm not from the North. There's a difference between the North and the South in this world. I think that's like the point of the chapter and like the context of the story.
And then they deliver a big message that Jon Arryn's dead.
Yeah, then the whole, Jon Arryn's dead. Robert's coming. After that, it kind of lines with Bran. You have the assassin person coming in. Then Kat kind of crosses paths with like everybody in this book. She goes down and meets with like Littlefinger and Ned and King's Landing for a chapter. Mm-hmm. Coming back north,
she gets to the inn and meets with Tyrion.
Captures Tyrion.
Captures that bitch.
Heads out to the Vale.
Goes out to the Vale.
Running with the Mountain Clans.
We have the whole running with the Mountain Clans. We have the whole Tyrion debacle up in the Eyrie. She comes back through White Harbor.
Yeah, right? To get to the Rob's camp.
Now she's tied in with Rob. She basically takes that road the whole way south to, I guess, River Run's where she's at right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, first we have the whole thing with the phrase and how they make the promise.
Yep. And then she makes it down to River Run. She's the point of view for basically the POV for the Starks during the beginning of these wars.
Mm-hmm. And her dad's almost dying. Blah blah blah.
All right, well, since we did Kat, let's do Tyrion quick. Basically, he kind of ties in with Kat towards the middle, but at the beginning, he takes a trip to the Wall, where after
the trip to Winterfell.
Yep, first he's chilling in Winterfell. I think he only has one chapter there, right, where he slaps
meets with
Joffrey a couple times, and then goes to breakfast.
Do we hear of him at the brothel, or it's just
he's not in a brothel in the book? He wakes up in a library.
Okay. Right. He sleeps he stays up all night reading.
Yeah, he went to read all their books.
Has an interaction with Jon.
I think I'm kind of on the side of Kyle not watching the rest of the show, just because like that, like little things like that is like I feel like it's easier to remember Tyrion waking up in the pig, in that scene he wakes up, in that scene he wakes up with pigs, but
yeah,
he wakes up with pigs, but like in the books he was like studying all night, right? That's not a huge character difference, but like okay, there's a difference between like getting drunk and.
I mean, I'm sure I'm sure at one point he visited the brothel at Winterfell.
Probably, but I mean, they made that like all he was about.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, kind of weird.
But yeah, so he does that, goes to the Wall. His story with Jon is like kind of interesting. He has between the two of them, maybe 2 chapters there. Again, in the show, Tyrion is kind of a way bigger influence on Jon than in the books.
But yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I guess maybe I'm misremembering that too. He didn't say any of that stuff in the books.
Well, in the books, he breaks up this fight that Jon's having with Gren, right? When Jon like hurts Gren. In the books, that's Donald Noy, who is never in the show at all.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There is a conversation between Jon and Tyrion at the top of the Wall at the end, right? And Tyrion and Jon have a conversation, and the Jon chapter after the feast in Winterfell. But yeah, there's a big scene that is a Donald Noy. Yeah. There's no backflip in the show. There's a big Donald Noy Jon scene in the books there that they put Tyrion in the Donald Noy place because Donald Noy that's his really only appearance in the first book at least.
Is the scene when them traveling to the Wall like halfway through?
That's also in both. Yeah, that's
in both. Right. Okay. All right. So after the Wall, he heads back down, stops to see Bran,
gives him the saddle design,
gives him the saddle, keeps going to the inn
because they think he tried to kill. Yeah, I think he sent the dagger.
I don't know if at that point they know Tyrion is behind it, but they have suspicions of Lannisters.
They just don't like the Lannisters, right?
I think Kat has left them with suspicions of the Lannisters.
Because Kat knows about the dagger, right, from Littlefinger.
She might know at this, like again, timeline. It doesn't really matter.
Timeline doesn't matter.
All I was trying to say is that it was a much different reception than the first time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They were not very happy to see him, and they wanted him out pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
So then he goes south again. This is where we just talked about it. Goes with Kat. He takes his whole trip up to the Eyrie.
Gets thrown in jail.
Makes friends with Bronn.
So then he goes down, promises the Mountain Clans the Vale.
All the armor and horses that they.
And then that's when we see Tywin the first time. So we only see Tywin like 2 or 3 times, and it's all from Tyrion. It's the next chapters in Tyrion's order from where we are now, right?
Mm-hmm.
What brought you here?
Horses. He's pretty well. Tywin and the Mountain Clans. Tyrion, Tywin, and the Mountain Clans and Bronn all together are a pretty cool dynamic, both in the books and the show. I guess we're just tying the books and show together at this point. In one podcast.
Mm-hmm. So the funny part is like he gets with his pop and like automatically makes him like a part of the military, which I don't think Tyrion really expected. But he's now leading the mountain clans in the army, and he gets put in the vanguard, which I'm sure Tyrion didn't want to do.
Big twist there that Tyrion finds out later.
He's supposed to die. Or supposed to be at least decimated.
His side was supposed to lose, yeah.
And the worst part about it in the show is that he just gets hit in the head and never fights at all.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, it was really dumb.
You didn't like that?
Yeah,
they couldn't afford battles early on. It works out for the Whispering Wood, but so yeah. Then after that for Tyrion, I think there's only 1 or 2 more chapters where basically he's in the camp, but he gets given the directive: "You're going to King's Landing to basically do what I'm supposed to be doing in Tywin's seat."
Don't take the whore.
That's after they find out about the Whispering Wood.
Besides Jon and Dany, who are like the fringe character, like the ones who are kind of outside of everybody else, the last 3 that we have to talk about, I think, are the King's Landing 3, right? Ned, Sansa, Arya.
Let's go Ned first.
We can pretty much do all at the same time. Most of them.
Yeah, they don't really leave each other.
Yeah, that's true.
Most of them at the same time.
So
the Ned stuff, again, pretty much in line with everybody else. Does the beheading, is shown in Winterfell. He gets the news that his like father figure throughout a lot of his life has died, but his best friend is coming to see him.
The king.
And the king comes to see him. We have some scenes early on with him and
the crypts.
In the crypts. Then
King asks him to be, or Robert asks him to be Hand, and he talks to Catelyn about it, and Catelyn's like, yeah, I mean, you got to find out what happened to Jon Arryn, so you should probably do it.
Yeah, so then he puts his Inspector Gadget cap on. It's really the only reason he went, right? Was to try and...
Yeah, exactly.
They thought Rob was in danger.
They thought there was something fishy going on.
Robert, not Rob.
He was hoping Catelyn would say, no, don't go.
Yeah, he was definitely...
Well, she was like, yeah, you should go.
She was originally, right? Until Lysa sent the note. Then it was kind of like, okay, you have to go now.
So yeah, this is a difference. There's a difference here in the show and book.
Yeah, see, you've tainted me by making me watch season 1.
Yeah, you're definitely not watching any more seasons.
In the books, both Lewin and Kat want Ned to go after hearing the letter. Like Lewin and Ned, Lewin and Kat both want Ned to go. In the show, Kat's like, "Are you mad? There's no way you can go now." So Kat is saying, "Don't go" after they hear the letter. But in the book, Ned, she's saying, "No, you have to go. You have to figure this out."
Ned kind of convinced her though in the show, like, "I have to go," and she was like, "Okay." I feel towards the end of the conversation
because Ned doesn't want to go at all in the books. He's like, "Fuck that."
And the Kat convinces.
I don't want to leave.
Yeah, the letter convinces Kat to tell him.
Ned's like that farmer that just wants to be on his farm and just farm the land.
Exactly. 1922.
No.
It's exactly what it's about. He kills his wife because she wants to sell the land. He's like, no, I want to stay.
It's literally the gladiator, right? He's like literally the war general who just wants to stay at home and farm and has to go to war.
And he's the most badass guy in the Roman Empire.
Great fucking movie, dude. Yeah. So then, what's next for Ned? He goes south.
They go down.
He has a couple chapters on the road. So he has one.
Well, yeah. So I was gonna say, like, Arya. Do we tie Arya in here? Like they're at the.
Oh yeah.
Well, even before that, there's one where him and Robert ride out in the morning.
Right.
In the show, they're just sitting at a table.
They talk about Dany for the first time.
They give us some backstory on some of how the Robert's Rebellion took place.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like it's weird. Again, like the show is pretty much aligned. It just they don't give you the backstory the same way. It's kind of like you get an extra scene with Ned and Jamie.
You get less time in the show.
It has to be dialogue in the show is why. Like it can't be.
It can't be people's thoughts. Yeah, exactly. So you have that. Then go into what you guys were going to say. This is him and Arya kind of cross a little bit.
Well, I mean, do we want to talk about Arya in Winterfell and Sansa in Winterfell at all?
There is no Sansa chapter in Winterfell, but the Arya chapter.
Arya gets needle.
It's her like
the only Arya chapter in Winterfell doesn't happen in the show at all.
She's just being bad, pretty much, right?
She's being bad. She runs away from needle lessons and watches Robb and
Joffrey sword fight, and then she gets needle from Jon in a Jon POV though.
Oh yeah.
So then I forget where they are where are they at when
they're in the dairy. They're at House Dairy.
She's at House Dairy and she's play fighting with Micah, and Sansa is off gallivanting with her.
Correction, they're at the Ruby Ford. They stay at House Dairy after like the debacle for like the 2 days while they're looking for Arya. But they're close to House Dairy. They're at the Ruby Ford. Doesn't matter.
And Joffrey and Sansa run into Arya and Micah play fighting, and then Joffrey's like, I'm gonna kill you.
Big dick swinging.
So we don't jump over it. Right before that happens, Sansa meets the Hound and Ilan Payne for the first time too. Yeah. And we didn't know it at that point, but like the Hound and Sansa have like a weird thing like throughout, right? They get drunk. He's drunk, takes her home at the feast, and towards the end of the book, he's kind of like nice to her. Yeah. Which is weird because who's she meeting here, right? She's meeting the Hound and Ilan Payne.
And then there's Renly and
No. And Nelson's like, Ilan kills her dad.
Ilan kills her dad. The Hound's nice, and when she meets them, like I think we talk again. This is something that probably talked about in the spoiler section that we can tell Kyle now is like at that point, like not like the Hound's a great guy, but the Hound's not a dickhead. He starts like being nice to her at the end, and she said, and at that point she says like, even though the Hound has scared me since I saw him and he got to Winterfell. Like this guy I could tell immediately this guy's way worse or something like this guy scared me 10 times more or something like that. Was like
I forgot about
which like is like the first thing she says when she sees Ilan, which is like again just like a passing thing, but when you know how it goes, you're like, oh, it's because Ilan cuts her head off. Ah. But yeah, so that's what happens with Sansa. Then we get the whole Arya fight.
And Nymeria just chomps on Joffrey's arm.
Arya throws a sword in the river, which is fucking badass.
Yeah, it is badass.
Did he ever get it? That was the real question.
No,
he didn't go get the sword.
I don't think that sword's ever mentioned again.
I think that river is like way bigger it's a huge river. It's like bigger than the Susquehanna. Like
too strong. Susquehanna.
That's what Colin knows.
Big.
It's a big river.
Dude, this is the biggest river this is like the river you see on fucking maps. What do you mean? It has to be at least that big.
I'm saying, yeah, I wouldn't have used the Susquehanna.
I'm just saying, if you look in the fucking
It's probably as big as the Mississippi. Can we agree to that?
I've never been there. I'm just saying, in the show, you can I've
never been there. Neither have I.
In the show, like you could like chest pass a basketball across it. It's like 20 feet. It's like way smaller in the show.
I've seen the Mississippi River.
She threw it about halfway in.
I'm just saying, I'm just trying to correct all the show things that are not the correct visuals.
I agree with you. It's probably a huge, strong river that you can't.
Exactly. In the show, you could easily go get that fucking sword from the river in the show.
Yeah, it looked like knee deep.
Well,
this is a different river. Yeah, exactly.
Which is why the twins are so important.
Either way, right? I think. Yeah, exactly. Either way, I think Arya is probably not like letting this thing sail like 100 meters. Right? She was like.
Nah, she fucking javelin through that bitch to the heart of that river.
Anyway, whatever. Moving on. Next, the Ned chapter. They find Arya. They bring her in. Lady gets her head snipped off.
Nah, just a
some
little
early tension.
Just a little throat cut.
Some early tension between Robert and Ned, which kind of like continues.
And Cersei, throw Cersei in that mix too.
I was gonna say, I think it starts to show the relationship they have there. I mean, I think you can kind of tell along, but I think that was like the first look into it.
Yeah.
Like he just does. He doesn't care about her, obviously, but he does shit to shut her up.
So he doesn't get nagged.
Joffrey and Cersei, who are like pretty, like obviously like assholes by the end of this book, like until this hadn't really shown their true colors at all. And this is like, if you're on a first time read through, yeah, for sure.
We don't have the wolf that did it, but we have another.
So now we get to King's Landing. Maybe we should now go through character.
Wait, right after or before Lady, the Hound kills Arya's friend.
Oh yeah, kills Micah as well.
Yep.
So we haven't forgiven the Hound for that. He's kind of being nicer than the other assholes.
He's being nicer to Sansa. I don't know if it's reciprocated to Arya. We don't really get any interactions with them.
Yeah, but
so they get down to King's Landing. Catelyn runs into Ned and Littlefinger. I mean, there's a whole lot of small council shit.
Yeah. So let's go through Arya's first to get that out. Let's do the Ned part last. Arya basically shows up. She's depressed about Micah. She gets a sword master teacher. She takes sword lessons, catches cats. Overhears a weird talk ends up in
the dragon skull storage room.
Skull room. Yeah, exactly. Here's a weird conversation between. Do you remember who that is, Kyle?
It was Varys and Illyria.
Yep.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, Cal.
So they're talking about some like weird. Basically, we get a hint that there's some connection between Dany, what's going on over there, and what's going on over here. They said like. Something like if one hand can die, why not another? Wolf and lion are at each other's throats. Kind of like they basically
even more than the Dany. I think it points to more just confirming that Jon Arryn was killed. All we had to go on at that point, right, was like Lysa's letter, really.
Gotcha. So I guess that's going back into the Ned story. So it's real quick for the Arya. I don't think anything else happens besides she overhears that, finishes. She has some more sword lessons. then
she runs away.
Runs away when shit happens.
Yeah, they try and take her.
Yeah, they show up at the Syrio fight. Syrio beats the fuck out of five Lannister guards who have swords, while he has a wooden sword, and then ambiguity with him and the other guy, Marin Tramp, but we see Marin Tramp later, and we haven't seen Syrio yet, so we don't know. But Arya runs away. Arya kills a stable boy. Like, she's killed somebody.
Yeah.
She's like 7
Well,
years
she
old.
was gonna. Wasn't he gonna fuck her up or like steal her
Yeah,
shit?
he was gonna turn her in.
Yeah, but
he knew who she was.
She's also like, I'm just saying, she's like 7. She's like
She's a
killed
badass,
somebody.
bro.
Yeah,
She's
for sure.
7
But she's
and
like
did
killed somebody.
Stuck him with the
Stick
She
him
would
with
have
the
killed
Indian.
Joffrey too if she had the chance.
For sure. So I'm just saying, she does. Then she lives homeless for a month or two.
Eating pigeons.
Gets called.
It was a month
wants
or
to
two?
steal.
That was a while.
It was as long as Ned was captured, right? And he
Yes.
was in prison for. Nelson will tell us, but I feel like that was a couple weeks, right? Because he was like shitting and pissing on himself, and
10/20. Mine says October 24th is when Syrio dies, and
October.
January
Dead
10th is when
They gave this a calendar.
3 months.
2.5. Yeah,
Holy bejeebus.
2.5 months that Arya's been.
And
out
she's
there.
running around stabbing pigeons.
I mean, she does seem to have a pretty good sense of the city by the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But
So she was homeless, and she hears about the ships being in the dock. Or why did she go? She just checked the
Oh,
gates
yeah,
every day.
She wanted to see if that boat that they were supposed to leave was was there or whatever,
Yep.
and then
And it
realized
was
that
there,
being-
right? And she saw people in her dad's colors.
yeah, they
And
set
it's
a
like,
trap for her,
that's-
but she saw through it.
Just smart 7-year-old.
She is called to
They thought
this.
she was a boy. It helped.
And then the bells ring, right?
There's a
Yeah.
bunch of other shit, but yeah, bells ring. She goes, and Ned gets his head cut off. Yoren grabs her. That's the end of her.
Mm-hmm.
Sansa really doesn't do shit in King's Landing, right? Until the Ned shit starts going down.
She talks about the tourney. We kind of meet
Oh, the
Loras
t- the
Tyrell
tourney,
through
you're
her.
right. Yeah, we hear about
She gets the
tourney through her.
rose from Loras.
Mm-hmm.
The Hound takes her back that night drunk.
Yep.
Tells her about the mountain.
Yeah, we hear about the
Yeah.
mountain. How, not good.
Her and Arya just don't have a really good relationship. They're kind of fighting
The
Yeah.
whole time, too.
because of Joffrey.
So then for Ned, he's kind of at the tournament too, but at the tournament is also where he starts his like investigation into the John Arryn stuff, right? Like Littlefinger tells him, you need to talk to the Squire. The Squire dies at the tournament. He says, you got to go talk to this guy, this blacksmith.
Blacksmith's apprentice.
Yep. So he goes and talks to him. He's
young Bobby B.
yeah. He
Looks
thought,
exactly like a young Bobby.
he says he knows he's the king's son. Who else has he? What else has he talked to? He goes to a brothel.
Yeah, he meets some ladies that have his
Another
there's that-
king's child,
Yeah.
and then he gets attacked in the street afterwards.
Yep.
Because Tyrion was captured.
Just
Yeah.
that's when Tyrion was captured. So that's when Ned gets injured. His leg gets all fucked up.
Horse falls on.
A bunch of his men die.
Then they start plotting with Littlefinger to overthrow.
Well,
oh
he
wait,
has
I
some
guess
fights
Rob.
he has some fights with
Rob.
Baratheon about the Danny shit, killing
he gives up
Danny.
his hand for a little
He
bit there.
quits. I think he actually quits right before he goes to the brothel. Yeah. He goes to the brothel, he quits, and then when he wakes up, Robert's like, you got to take this back, your hand again. That's when Robert slaps Cersei. And then Robert's like, I'm going on a hunt to clear my head. Robert leaves, and then shit starts happening in the Riverlands because Jaime had left the city. That's when all the Riverland lords come in, and Ned has to sit on the throne and give out rulings. And he basically says, Gregor, that's it, kill the guy, like go get him. Sends
Yeah,
out
and
Beric.
wear the king's banners and all that.
Yeah.
So pretty much he.
Sends out Beric and a couple other people, Thoros and Mir, and like 20 to 100 men. I forget, but he sends them out to kill the mountain. I forget what else happened. He calls Tywin, tells Tywin he has to come to the capital to answer for his crimes or be named
Calls
a
Tywin
traitor.
up?
He does. He tells Tywin, he proclaims that Tywin has to
I
come
know.
to
You
King's
say
Landing.
calls him.
Whatever. He
brings him
proclaims
up.
that
Yeah,
Tywin has
Tywin.
to. He proclaims
Braving
Tywin
him
has
up.
to come, or else he'll be named a traitor as well. After that, I think that's the next is Robert, right? Robert comes back
Skewered.
Dying.
Impaled by a hog.
fucked up. Yep. So he has that conversation with Robert.
They signed the letter stating that he would
Oh, somewhere in there was
be the
the.
protector of the realm.
I think there's a chapter that's literally just the dream the tower dream that we talked about, and we talked about with Kyle in one of the spoiler sections too. I think that's literally like a chapter on its own somewhere in there. But yeah, Robert comes back. He's fucked up. They have that conversation. Shit hits the fan. Renly's like, "Yo, dude, help me out." Ned's like,
does he change the? Hey, in the show versus book, does he change the last line to rightful heir?
Yeah. He wrote it down.
I mean, you see him write it differently.
They show it. Yeah.
I forget what.
But you missed where he tries to tell Cersei, like he lets her know that he already knows, and tries to be nice and honorable and let her leave.
In the garden.
He's like, I don't want to kill your kid. Like your kids will be like the ones that get killed from this, so take them and run from the city. And she's like, nah.
He tells her to go to fucking across the narrow sea, doesn't he?
Go as far as possible. There's nothing Robert will do. Just like we'll stop looking for her.
And he comes back impaled by a hog.
So then he gets betrayed. So then he tells Littlefinger, look, Littlefinger, you pay the gold cloaks. I need them on my side in this throne room. Littlefinger's like, dude, I got you. Well, before this, Littlefinger's like, hey, Littlefinger's like, yo, dude, I got a great idea. Support Joffrey, marry Sansa to Joffrey. Boom. Your kid's the queen of the realm. Until then, you take over, you rule for like 5 years, and then you give it to your daughter. Your daughter's king, you go back to Winterfell. Great plan. And Ned's like, nah, that's not honorable. But why don't you help me out? And Littlefinger's like, yeah, you know what? Even though you just said no to my plan and I don't want anything to have to do with you, yeah, sure, I'll help you out. And then they go to the throne room and Littlefinger pulls a knife on Ned. And he's like, yo, why would the fuck would you do that, dude? And Littlefinger's like, I told you not to trust me. Exactly. So then that happens. Ned's in a dungeon for a couple chapters. Varys comes and talks to him. He's like, yo, I know you don't care about anything, but they're going to fuck up Sansa unless you basically say Joffrey's king. He says Joffrey's king. Joffrey cuts off his head anyway. That's the end of the Ned story.
Sansa screams.
So why wouldn't he say something after? Like, he's standing there. He says, I was a traitor. Joffrey's king. And then Joffrey goes, all right, we're going to kill him. Why wouldn't he say something then?
I don't know if anyone could hear him. It was probably really loud and everyone started
you think fucking
jeering or cheering.
I mean, why didn't he say something still?
No one's going to hear him.
Is that where Sansa's story ends after the beheading?
No, that's when she takes him up to the wall. And she's going to push Joffrey.
Hang on.
Yeah. I was going to say, I didn't want to like say that without...
Yep.
What story?
Like Sansa, like after the beheading,
didn't know if that was in the next book or not.
She's in her room for like a long time.
Yeah, she's sad, and
not knowing what's going on, just with her and Gene Poole. And
well, that's before. That's when. That's
before, and then to the head.
We also don't know where the fuck Gene Poole's at. They gave her to Littlefinger, so she's probably stuck in deck somewhere.
Brian a brothel, yeah. So my question though, like, is serious though, like that's like Ned's whole thing is to be honorable. He changes himself at the very last moment
to save Sansa.
It's about to get him killed. Why wouldn't he go back on that?
Well, again, so now that I said that, Barry said, if you go back on this, they're going to kill Sansa. He said, I don't care about my life. And he said, what about your daughter's life?
You think my life means that much
and that's what made him change his mind. So, like, if he starts yelling that, Joffrey could be like, yep, get her too now. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing stopping that.
Or just like, you literally just said, hey, Joffrey's king. Oh, wait. It's not true. Actually, it's a lie. Like, how do you believe him then?
You're right. It doesn't look good. If, like, after he's like, hey, he's king. Kill that guy. Oh, no, he's not king anymore. Like, I get that.
You say it doesn't look good, but, like, what does he care at that point? At least get the truth out there. He literally went there. That was the entire reason he went there, was to figure out the secret, and now it's dying with him.
For sure. But what are you going to do? Spew it to a bunch of lowborn commoners? Like, Joffrey's the bastard born, like, as a sword's coming down. Like, he doesn't have a ton of, like, he doesn't have a minute to give a monologue.
Dude had to push through the crowd to get up there.
In the show, in the books, he's just, like, he's literally there. Like,
yeah, he's on the stage.
Yeah, like, they had the whole thing's, like, kind of coordinated. Like, I don't know. Like, he could have said, like, Joffrey's stage. Not king, but, like, he can't be like, Joffrey's, like, and here's the proof. Here's where you find the proof. Like, there's no way, like, he could have convinced a crowd of, like,
even his proof is, like, hoping that genetics are true.
But what I'm saying, though, is,
like, if you're best friends with Robert, you can tell if these other kids are a bastard. Like, yeah, it's tough.
Doesn't matter. Like I said, you plant that seed out there, the truth.
His truth was he tried to get that letter to Stannis, but Fat Tom got killed in the throne room with him. That was like his. Again, that's way before the beheading, but that was his. Get this out to somebody else so I have a safety blanket.
Littlefinger and Varys know, right? And they just don't say. Like, they know.
There's definitely like some suspicions going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
there's
like,
definitely people that know.
Oh, really, Ned?
Right
you just found that out?
Yeah, I mean, Littlefinger's
not
pointing.
the honest people. It's the fucking conniving people that know and trying to use it to their advantage.
So, okay, the only two we have left are the two pretty much disconnected. So Jon starts off, we had nothing special. He's a bastard. Well,
John's a brooding
He's
bastard.
a bastard, completely a very outsider from the rest of the family.
Gets the White Wolf.
Mainly from Catelyn.
I feel like in general, bastards are looked down upon, even if there's no
special. But I mean, he's tight with Robb and Arya.
And Bran.
Like, he's not tight with Sansa
just society,
and Catelyn.
I was talking about just society in general. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, would you rather be a bastard, a highborn bastard, or a lowborn bastard? I'd take being a highborn bastard.
Isn't that a Tyrion line? Pretty much. It's better to be a rich cripple.
Yeah, if you're me a cripple, it's better to be a rich cripple. I'm not a cripple. Then I'm not a dwarf. My father will rejoice to hear
it. He goes to the wall. He trains. He's better than every other recruit there because he's actually been trained to fight. So he thinks he's going to be like the most badass person ever. Turns out he's not a ranger like his uncle Benjen, who's been missing. He is a steward, which is basically a maid / butler /
personal
servant. Yeah.
Of the commander of the
commander, but he still does. At first, he doesn't look at that until
he doesn't look at it that way. You're right. Yeah.
Sam changes his point of view on the whole meaning, but he still doesn't like serving food and shit. He makes some friends along the way. Gren, Pip.
Start off as enemies, but some of them come around.
Sam. He protects Sam.
Yep, Sam shows up. There's a little conflict with Sam and some of the other boys, but Jon
steps in and
uses Ghost to
brings
protect
him under his wing.
They use Ghost to scare one of the boys in the middle of the night. They scare Rast.
And then Sam joins them to take his oath under the weirwood trees.
So they take their oath. They come back. Then
with zombies, they find a hand that night.
They find a head that night. Yep.
And then they find bodies, and then they bring the bodies back.
Yeah, so there's this whole body plot line, but then at the exact same time, as soon as Jon swears his vows, his whole world starts falling apart. And, not only that, but, unlike anybody else, literally anybody else from the Night's Watch, he's famous enough to, actually get news of it, right? So, he just swore this vow, I have to keep my entire life at this place. And, even if Gren's dad did get beheaded and his brother did go to war, Gren would never fucking know about it because Gren's a fucking farmer from fucking who knows where, right? But because Jon's family is literally, the fucking vice president.
The hand of the king.
Yeah, he's getting news about all this horrible shit and has to keep dealing with it. So he has this whole conflict to deal with. But yeah, we also have this supernatural side of things. What's going on there?
They find the bodies, bring them back.
They come back to life. They do kill people and attempt to kill.
Well, when they come back to life, Jon had just gotten in trouble for, I think, assaulting potentially Sir Alistair.
Yeah,
he was about to. He ran on the table and
a traitor's bastard or something like that.
Yeah. There's one thing worse than a bastard, and that's a traitor's bastard.
He's potentially Jon's potentially in deep shit here, and it just so happens that he saves the Lord Commander the night that he got punished, saved his fucking life.
Because of Ghost.
Ghost is a huge part of it for sure.
Burns his hand.
Fucked up his hand. After that, then he gets all this news about Robb going south. And that's when he's
gonna go south.
That's when he's like, fuck it, I'm out. I can't do this. My whole family's gone. They need me. I'm going.
We find out Aemon is
Aemon gives him the talk about hard choices.
I've been there. It's pretty much the same situation.
Love is the death of duty. So then Jon's like, I'm out, and he goes. I don't think there's nothing else crazy, right?
Nope. Then he gets brought
he
back.
leaves. He doesn't leave right away. He leaves after. What's it called? After he finds out Robb's going to war.
Yeah. Robb, yeah, when he hears Robb call the banners and is marching
Sam
south.
tries to stop him.
He leaves when Ned dies.
Yeah, they find out Ned's dead.
When Ned dies, he goes for a ride and Ghost convinces him to go back. And then when
Robb's going to war before Ned dies. When Ned gets captured, he goes for a ride.
That's when he gets. Yeah, that's right. Yep.
When Ned gets captured, yeah, and then when Ned dies, he's like, I'm fucking out.
Yeah.
Right. So he also
Sam tries to stop him.
Jon also gets this cool sword along the way, and he has this conflict of whole more months trying to be my dad type thing. Sam tries to stop him.
You're not my dad.
He leaves Longclaw.
And then all his friends go and bring him back. Mormont's like, I knew it was going to happen the whole time. Ha ha ha. And figure it the fuck out because we're going north of the wall. So if you're going to leave, try and leave and we'll fucking kill you now. Or fucking grab your fucking nutsack because we're going north, boy.
We're going to find your uncle, bro.
That's basically it. So then last one, Dany. Starts off, she's very scared little girl getting fondled by her brother.
No, was she like 13,
Definitely getting
14?
diddled by her brother.
She's a very scared little girl.
Maybe not diddled.
Fondled and diddled by a massive horse lord who she's now the wife of.
Yeah. Learns how to enjoy it.
She kind of toughens up. Yeah, just deals with it.
Goes to Vastoth Rack.
Pushes through. Goes to Vastoth Rack.
Eats a heart.
Eats a horse heart.
Pregnant. Gonna have give birth to the stallion that mounts the world.
Yep, gets pregnant somewhere in there.
After she eats the heart, she bangs. What's his name? Under the Stars.
No, that happened before. She was pregnant. She was like 6 months pregnant when she ate the horse heart.
I'm sure she banged him Under the Stars too.
Oh yeah, they were banging no matter what. But yeah, she walked in the womb of the world. The night she eats the horse heart is the night her brother gets molten gold poured on his face for being a douchebag.
Pretty dope.
Kind of dope. Then
physically impossible, but
then they go, and because of the whole Robert thing.
You said it's physically impossible?
I'm pretty sure I saw a Mythbusters in that they wouldn't have been able to melt the gold.
Yeah, you can't melt a gold over a fire like that.
Yeah.
Okay. It wouldn't have melted as fast as it did in the show either.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They just like threw it in there and it was just like melted.
Well, it was fool's gold, guys. Come on, figure it out.
It hardened really quick once it hit his head too. It was like rock solid before he hit the ground.
Like that shit you put on. It was like that chocolate syrup that you can put on ice cream that like hardens
Magic
up.
shell.
Yeah, still good.
You can also, fun fact for all of our listeners, if you melt chocolate chips and then put it on your ice cream, you'll get the same effect. So, fun fact.
So then there's some poisoner who tries to kill Dany in the.
Yep, Jorah saves her
in the town. Jorah saves her. Well, kinda. A collection of people save her, but Jorah spots it, and then a collection of people save her. That fires Drogo up. He's like, all right, we're going to go. We're going to kill everyone.
We're going back.
Yeah, we're going to kill everybody that you want to go kill now.
But before they do that, they go to Sheep Town.
Take a quick stop at Lazarene people. They rape a lot of people, meet Miriam at his door. Dany meets some new slave girls.
So I was keeping some of the show stuff out of this, but now that we've talked about it all, like him getting hurt in the show was like the lamest thing ever.
I don't know, dude. I think that fight scene is sick as fuck. He pulls like his tongue out.
He does pull that guy's tongue out of his throat.
Yeah.
He barely got hurt. He like got touched by a sword once, and that was it. You think he hasn't been hit like that before?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's a tiny cut in the show for sure, and yeah, he doesn't have his nipple cut off. But the other thing is that's Mago, right? That guy whose tongue he pulled out is Mago.
It's number 2.
In the books, Mago is raping Aroa.
Yeah, it's a blood rider, right?
Yeah, raping Aroa, and she like swears on the heavens that she's gonna make Mago and Jago, who is one of the other Kos, die screaming worse than Aroa did, and like that guy's already dead in the show.
Yeah,
that's like at least that's the guy who did everything Mago did up to this point. But it is pretty sweet how Drogo just fucking is like at the beginning of the fight, he's like literally dodging sword swings and just like pulling his weapons off and dropping them on the ground. Like, I don't even fucking need these. Yeah. And then he steals the guy's own sword and cuts his throat with it and pulls his tongue out. Dude, I mean, that is a sweet fight scene. It is such a sweet
it's
fight
pretty
scene.
lame that he died. That like he's gonna die from a festered wound though. That's a pretty lame fucking.
Yeah, I mean
that one. Like I said, that wound. It was so unbelievable.
Yeah, one of the book is a lot worse.
Yeah.
You would think that like a fighting clan would be able to heal that a little bit better.
Let's finish off the Dany thing, and then we'll double back and talk about some of that stuff.
All right, so she asks Mir Mesdor to save the festered wound. The only way is blood magic, so she does a bunch of shit, and all the Dothraki hate her now because of it, so a lot of them leave, but she's about to give birth during the shadow magic baby demons, so Jorah takes her in. Her baby became a lizard shit that fucking turned into larva when it was born.
Drogo became a vegetable.
Drogo's a vegetable that likes to sit in the sun.
He's a sunflower.
Stare at the sun.
Yeah.
And Dany's pissed, but she's not even worried about her baby or her husband. She's worried about dragons because of a dream she had.
I did want to say, in the show, the first thing she asks Jorah when she wakes up is, "Where's my son?" In the show.
Really?
Yes.
I just edited that podcast that literally just went live like 10 minutes before we started this. That argument lasts for an hour and a half. It's like from the very beginning to the very end. Every single time like anybody says anything, and Jeff's like, and she would have thought about her kid, and Kyle's like, astral plane. Pretty much how that went the entire time.
I mean, it's just
but
absurd.
yeah, so that happens. It's pretty much very similar to so Drogo is fucked up. She has this conversation with Miri where she's like, you fucked me. Miri's like, this is what you bought. You bought the same thing I bought for my life.
You knew what you were getting into, bitch.
Yep. And then she ties everyone to the pyre. In the show, Dany walks into the fucking middle of this shit. She does not. She does not stand on the edge like she does.
She doesn't have her hair.
And she like promises
off either. Yeah.
She had like just promised Jorah that she wasn't going to go in, and then she like goes right into the middle of it.
Yeah,
it was like kind of so stupid. Like he.
in the book, she's like, I'm not going to go in. Then she doesn't go in. But in the show, she's like, I'm not going to win. She's like Scrooge McDuck.
She like swan dives into
exactly. it. Right into the fire. So that's it. I guess like.
And the fire goes out, and she has 3 dragons sucking on her nipples.
No, none of them on.
None of them are breastfeeding in the.
None of them in the show. That was the most.
We're talking about the
That
books,
was the most disappointing part.
2 of them breastfeeding. That's the most disappointing.
How about and she walked into the fire with breast milk shooting out of her nipples? I'm not going to skip over this whole recap without talking about the most absurd thing. Just breast milk shooting out into the fire.
You're good. But because
what's more absurd, the breast milk shooting out or the dragons drinking her breast milk?
I mean, I don't know about nipples and boobs with breast milk in them. Do they just fire uncontrollably?
Well,
I mean, they could leak for
sure.
I'm sure they could leak, but it seemed like it was like a water gun that was just pumped up like 10 times.
I mean, maybe she was squeezing on them.
Maybe.
Well, they're hot, right? Like, tea kettle. It's like
it was boiling.
That's steam, though. Yeah, that's steam, though.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Milk is steaming, though. I don't think that's how that works. So now that we've been like talking about the show throughout, I cut Kyle off at the beginning because I didn't know if we were going to talk about the show. I guess we're going to talk about it. This might go a little bit.
It's kind of hard to not talk about the show.
Now, I mean, we did it for literally a
well, now that you made me
podcasts.
watch it,
Another Kyle's watch it.
Like I said, I don't want to do another one either. And I guess you're gonna have to leave this in if you cut the other part out. But I felt like it gave too much stuff I shouldn't know or might not know, and I felt like even though it was stuff like you said, like, well, that didn't actually happen or that's not confirmed by George, and like it just felt wrong. I guess
the one good example that you said that I like, maybe this is a little bit of a spoiler that I conceded to, and Jeff kind of hinted at the end, was there's definitely more of like a Jorah Dany, like Jorah's interested in Dany and like
for sure
relationship definitely from the get go. Where like I don't think that's really present very much at all in the first book. Jeff kind of brought it up at the end in the very last Dany chapter when he's like, "My sword is yours, my heart is yours."
Yeah. No, he said he shot a shot.
Exactly. Like,
I thought that was
he like there is like
that was probably the first inclination.
Again, like maybe this is a spoiler. He continues to do like stuff like borderline like that, and maybe a little bit past it in the show or in the books. But you're right. They definitely like start that right off from the get go, and in the show, and that's not in it. But I think the first season is pretty good. I was even going to be worried about you getting into season 2 and 3. And like, I was going to be really careful about like making sure like what chapters were covered in what scenes and stuff like that. But I think the first one, you should be pretty much good.
But I mean, I guess and not to spoil one of your questions that I'm sure you're going to have, but like, so one of the most interesting probably things is just like what happened to Arya in terms of after Yoren grabbed her. Uh-huh. Like in the show, season 1, he's got Bobby B's son, the fucking blacksmith's apprentice, and they're headed north back to the wall with all these the prisoners and all that. So like,
I thought about that. That's the first Arya chapter in. I
know, I'm sure it is.
But I was wondering if you were gonna know. The thing is, it's trickier. It's a lot trickier too, because when you read Clash of Kings, especially when you don't get breastfed, like we're breastfeeding you. When you read that Arya chapter and you're like, when you read that Arya chapter and she's like, there was 3 other boys that she talked to and they were Hot Pie, Lami, and Gendry. You do not piece together, oh, Gendry, that's who Ned saw
Gendry
like
Baratheon or whatever his name.
Did we even know that it was Gendry when we?
Well, it's super obvious in the show because you put face to face, but you get name and you get both names. But there's so many names in the book, you never put those together across. It's literally it has to be 500 pages.
Yeah, dude, I probably had no fucking clue. Like you probably had to tell me.
They might like again, I don't remember exactly, but once they get into Clash, they might make it a little bit more obvious who he is. But yeah, like that's another good point. Like even it's not a huge.
He probably brings up that he's like a blacksmith, right? Like
they probably mentioned that he was a blacksmith.
Well, that was like one of the things he said to us, like
that helmet or whatever.
Exactly. And again, we would have told Kyle that because that's not a spoiler. That's something that like we would try and refresh you because again, making you read this over the part of 2 years does not help you with remembering stuff like that.
Please, I read it. I tried to just read it straight through, and I didn't remember that shit.
He remembered Illyrio's name, so that's impressive.
It was impressive.
Yeah. All right. So, but besides that, was there anything else in the show you can think of?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the show I can think of. So, like back to Drogo getting cut was lame. And we talked about it before, but like Tyrion being made to look like a coward, or just they took his triumph by not
just getting hit in the head
for sure. Yeah.
I thought that was lame as shit too.
I guess what character from the show do you think best matched their maybe not even physical description, but like just like what character really? Oh, you know what? Or you have the least complaints about. I think Joffrey and Cersei are probably two good choices. I feel like bad characters.
I feel like I don't want to steal
Cersei should
Kyle's.
be younger though in the book or in the show.
Joffrey should too. They should all be younger.
Yeah, they're also old. Yeah.
I feel bad for the Joffrey guy because he's kind of like Malfoy, Draco Malfoy, where it was like he was kind of perfectly cast for that role, and everybody's gonna hate him forever.
And now he'll be typecasted as an enemy or a villain. I haven't seen him in anything.
Well, he's not an actor. That's what's worse. He's like he wanted to be a lawyer. Like he was.
He was in Batman though.
Yeah, he was a kid in Batman.
He was like a child. Right. Exactly. He was a child actor, and like during filming of Game of Thrones, I think he graduated. Like he passed the bar exam or something, and he was gonna become a lawyer. He was literally just doing it for money, and it took off. So he's like, okay, I'll keep doing it because I'm literally making $1 million or whatever. But
yeah, I mean, he's definitely perfect, and he's just a little cunt. Like he acts like a little cunt so well.
Yeah,
he's very hateable for sure.
I think I know Nelson's saying like Rob Baratheon's character is.
Robert Baratheon, I think, is so good.
You don't even need you should never need to recast that character again. Like he was like if you brought anybody else, if you brought anybody else to the audition after him, you're a fool.
Things I like about the show that again like aren't in the books and like they kind of similar, kind of not. Is like what about the scene between him and Cersei, Kyle? Do you know what scene I'm talking about?
Yeah,
they just talk about their relationship.
I did love you at one point or whatever,
exactly.
and like he never did. He always cared about Lyanna.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a really cool scene. Those two actors they just fucking nail it. And again, I have no even though I'm a book diehard, I have no issues with that scene.
Lena Headey's great. She's a great Cersei.
Yeah, she's good.
They say stuff that we never know if either character feels that in the books, but like I still think hey, that's close enough to true that put that in there. That's cool.
Yeah, and I didn't hate that stuff, but like I said, I kind of felt like I was getting insight into things that.
The other one that you said was when Cersei was patching up Joffrey's arm, and she's like, "The Starks are our enemies." She like says something along the lines of "The Starks are our enemies" or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. And they like go into it pretty much like that they're at war already, and the war hasn't even started.
At that point,
isn't Joffrey
just the wolf conflict? Yeah.
In the show, like Joffrey's like, "I don't want to marry Sansa anymore." Like she.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah, and she's like, "Oh no, you have to."
But again, like that probably we don't get POVs from those people, so I'm okay. I'm okay with stuff like that because
we know that Joffrey was cold as shit to Sansa for weeks, if not months, right?
And where you are in the books, you knew that they eventually became enemies, so that's why I was okay with you. Like, that's why like you can't watch the episode as we read. Like, okay, we're done the next 7 chapters. You can read this. Watch this. Like, you can't follow on that closely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still felt like it was too much. And then, like, Renly and Loras, right?
Yeah,
so, like,
the gay stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, whatever, but that I did not have any... Like, that was never anything I thought
damn,
was
really?
happening.
That ruined it? Oh, that's fucked.
Well, that's not even a thing in the... I told Kyle this. It's not even really a thing in the books. It has no, like... They've never really openly said if Renly's gay or not, and it has no impact on the story, really, one way or the other.
But it's still, it's just like weird stuff like that. Like I said, it just kind of
Yeah, no, it's definitely weird.
I feel like it inserts too much into the world.
I think when I read the first book, I think I watched the season first, right? So then I read the first book, and I was like, oh, like it just like was in my head that Renly was gay, and I didn't read anything about him being gay with Loras. And Nelson was like, wait, no, like nothing was said about them being together.
Well, there's stuff like Renly shows up and they say like he cared about like the way he dressed way more than other people. And when you see the show first, obviously when you read it first, it's so. When you see the show first and you're like, oh, he's gay, and you see that, you're like, oh, that's just like a book hint that he's gay because they don't have like scenes with him as a POV, right? You kind of think like, oh, this is how they show that this is how Robert. When you consume it the other way. The way that Jeff and I did
Renly at the joust, and he's betting on Loras, and Loras gives him like the wink after Sansa's sitting in front of him, and he like hands her the rose, and it wasn't actually for her; it was for Renly.
Littlefinger's like, and when will you be having your friend? Littlefinger says that to Renly. He's like, I didn't think you had any friends. And Littlefinger's like, oh, Renly, when will you be having your friend? And looks at Loras. It's like, wow, dude, really? In front of the entire court.
And then he told me he might be able to buy a friend.
If he wins some money. Buy a friend. Yeah.
And then Cersei and the breastplate stretcher kid banging. That's weird. I didn't know she was banging more Lannisters.
Oh, yeah, the nephew Lannister.
So, I mean... Like that's definitely a spoiler.
The show is ruining so much.
Yeah, like I said, that's what I'm saying, man. I felt like I was just kind of like it was wrong, and I shouldn't have done it.
That's why I wanted to watch. That's why I wanted to watch the show first. But the notes that I'm taking on the show like take a while. I'm only on episode. I haven't watched it for like 2 weeks. I'm only on episode like 4.5.
Well, you can stop because we're not going to do anymore.
Yeah, no,
I was doing it in preparation for this, but yeah.
So this is why. I mean, and you wanted me to tell you why. I didn't want to. I think I have a good list of things here.
Yeah. I mean, I literally said early on, like, oh, Kyle, wait till you watch season 1. It's like word for word. And I didn't even remember like all this side. And I literally just watched season 1.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
yeah, me too. So I guess let's get again, feel free to keep, now that you've seen it, comment on both. But let's get into some of the questions we had. Obvious one was, who's your favorite like character?
That was one of mine. Quit taking my questions.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only one I had. I feel like we all would have.
And you said you were most. I guess you said you were most excited for Arya.
Most intrigued about
until you watched the show. You were most excited to see where.
Well, it's not until I watched the show. It's like the show kind of answered that.
I got you.
Yeah,
where the next step is going for.
Yeah.
I forget what your.
But that doesn't mean that she was your favorite character. That in this book.
When you opened the book and you saw the name of this character, you were like, okay, cool. This will be all right. I'm excited to read this one. Did you have any of them?
I don't know if I had a chapters like that. I mean, I guess kind of a lot of the Ned stuff, and now, I mean, he's dead, obviously, but like that was kind of the most compelling in the book.
That was definitely my biggest disappointment because I thought Ned was going to be the character, like the main character.
Everybody.
That was the whole thing. You think he's the main character?
That shit was wild.
Yeah,
he gets the most chapters by far.
So I think it's probably tainted by the show, but I think probably the best character was Bronn. I think he was probably the best.
Hell yeah, that's
he's an awesome show.
Yeah,
that is something. Everything in season 1 is Bronn to Bronn. That is something that because that actor is so good, they just like they use him way more in the show in like the next season.
Okay, and I believe it because, like I said, he was funny, but he wasn't.
And again, it's not like they make up fake scenes. It's the kind of like the thing where like when there's a minor character that they don't want to use who's good with a sword, they just kind of like stick Bronn in. Kind of like the way they stick Tyrion in that Jon scene where Donald Noy. They're like, we're not going to introduce Donald Noy, so we'll just use Tyrion for the same thing to give him the same life lesson.
Bronn didn't kick that knight down the hole, did he? In the book.
They fought in the garden. They didn't.
Yeah, I didn't think they fought near the hole at all.
No, yeah, he doesn't. No. I think he like stabs like the.
He pushed a statue on him.
He stabs him through his collarbone. I'm pretty sure.
I thought he
pushed a big statue on him.
He didn't make him fly through the moon door.
So it was just kind of weird. One of those like I don't think this happened here.
Bronn was on him in a heartbeat, kicking what was left of the shattered rondel aside to expose weak spot between the arm and breastplate. Ser Vardis was lying on his side, pinned between the broken torso of the weeping woman. Catelyn heard the knight's groan as the sellsword lifted the blade with both hands and lifted it and drove it with all his weight down behind it under the arm through Ser Vardis' ribs. Ser Vardis shuddered and lay still. So he kicked the statue on him and then basically kicked his armor apart and stabbed him in the chest. So yeah, but you're right. It was in a garden. It was in the garden overlooking Lysa's bedchamber. Or like,
and you were saying, did Sam go? Sam wasn't a part of the.
He wasn't a part of the group
recruiting
that
brigade.
chased him down, but he was in the show.
What do you mean the group that chased who down?
John.
Sam
He was back at camp, freaking out,
You're right.
waiting for everybody.
And they only had in the show it was only Gren, Pip, and Sam, right?
Yeah.
And there was like 4 other guys.
Those are really the only. Those are really the only show characters of the Wall. Like they don't really give any of the other characters.
Yeah.
Isn't Rast one too?
Well, Rast is the bad guy. Yeah, he's like the dick who tries to bully Sam. I don't even know if he might not even have a name. I don't even know if he has a name in the show though.
I'm thinking of the little kind of not as fat but kind of chubby with the beard.
Yeah, that's Rast.
With, like the chin
I'm just saying I don't think they give him a name in the show. There's other boys around, but there's none that are like repeating and like with scenes with lines and stuff besides Gren and Pip. I don't think.
No Toad?
Again, like there's a character that's probably repeats and does some of the stuff that Toad does, but yeah, I don't think there's a name.
No, I get you. Yeah. So, like I said, Bronn probably if you had the show in. Back to that question, who the favorite character is. The best one to read, like I said, was still probably Ned. I guess Tyrion's are all right. Like I mean, he's definitely got some funny stuff, but
Ned's were cool. I would say Tyrion had the most action.
I will say that I don't.
Glow and Jeff the same question for the first book.
Let me finish this. I don't think I hate Catelyn as much as you do, Jeff. Yet, I mean, her chapters aren't always exciting, but they definitely have a lot of stuff happen in them.
Nelson might be able to. I might be like biased to like just not liking
the actress. Is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
I don't like the actress.
And so like, I'm pretty sure I was biased and like, oh my god, like she just complains a lot. I don't know. It's a lot of whining. I get a lot of whining from Catelyn.
You were just talking about that with Dany and not being worried about her kids. She's worried about her kids.
She's worried. I'll give her that. She's a solid mother to her 5.
I definitely don't think Cat is one of my favorite characters by any means, but I don't hate her chapters at all. Her chapters are definitely interesting as fuck because like there's always
Sansa's are the worst chapter by far. If you're giving me that question, Sansa has the worst chapters.
I think in this book, yes, because they suffer from the cat symptom of this character is, at least for us, is unrelatable and kind of boring, right? She cares about like clothes and shit more than anything else. But also her chapters are also impacted by she doesn't have the benefit that Cat has, where she's the only person in the Northern Army giving us POVs. We have 2 other people who are more interesting giving us POVs in King's Landing. So like
she's just kind of filler at that point. She didn't have to set the actual scene.
Now that I wasn't going to say it because of I didn't think Kyle know it, but now that Arya is out of King's Landing, Sansa's going to be the only POV in King's Landing at the start of Clash of Kings. So I think that immediately makes her shit more interesting just because, at least her chapters, maybe not her character, but her chapters more interesting.
I mean, like her last 2 chapters were kind of interesting.
Again, because it was kind of the same thing. She's the only person in the court, right? Arya's still in King's Landing, but they're not seeing the same things at all anymore.
Exactly.
So, Glow, who's your favorite character in the book?
In this book?
You know who it is.
It has to be. I think it has to be Ned.
No, I think he loves Jon.
Yeah. Ask Jeff this. Let me think about it.
Go ahead, Jeff. My answer is Ned. Just because, like, first off, you just get way more information. Like, you get so much backstory about Robert's rebellion between him talking to Robert, his dream. Like, you get a bunch of like the weird prophecy stuff that I love with the dream with Lyanna.
Yeah.
I think Ned's definitely interesting.
And like I said, I think he has the most, and obviously it's complete story, but that he has the most complete story in this book, like where he was set out on this mission, he found the answer, and then he brought it to light, and that's where I guess where I'm coming from. I don't mean to monopolize.
Ned was cool. I also think he was a perfect actor for the character.
Yeah, he was great.
He was great.
They should have just dyed his hair black, and he would have been perfect.
Well, because he had to die at the end. Right, that's Sean Bean.
Sean Bean. That is Sean Bean.
Jeff hasn't seen all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Ned is probably the best.
Spoiler.
He does in like everything. It's not just Lord of the Rings.
I'm also a big Maisie Williams fan. Like, I think the Arya character.
We're talking
about
book. Let's go for book.
Well, her character is great in the book too, but like, it's just hard for me to separate them. I think they're so good. Like we talked about that.
Did you say who? Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry, I cut you off.
I think I have to agree with.
I think Tyrion. I think I had a lot of fun reading Tyrion's chapters. Because it's like he's witty and funny.
I think you've
really Nelson's put me on to liking Tyrion.
I think he's really relatable, right? He's close to our age. He's actually a little bit younger than we are at this point. He's about the age we were when we read these for the first time. He talks about like, I just want to fuck bitches and drink wine, right? Like it's kind of relatable to a lot of people.
He's like sarcastic as shit too. Like,
and
to
he's
the people,
smart.
like,
Everyone likes to think that they're clever because he's witty and clever. He gets like, I don't know. I feel like he's relatable because Ned, no, it's hard to relate to Ned, who's like it's like relating to Captain America. It's hard to relate to Captain America or Superman.
Well, you hate Captain America.
Yeah, exactly. They're boring. I'm not a huge fan of Ned's character. He's too goody. He's too white, right? I like gray characters. He's too black and white. Ned's full white. He's just a good guy. He's not interesting. But Ned's chapters are interesting.
Lawful good.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Lawful good.
Exactly. Ned's chapters are the worst because Ned's chapters are interesting because there's a lot of shit happening. I'm not super interested in his character.
Tyrion's like a chaotic neutral.
That's why I like Tyrion. Because he does shit that's like borderline, but it's always interesting.
All right, so Kyle, following up on Ned being your favorite character, this is a tough question because there's a bunch of different POVs, but do you get a sense that after Ned, there's like another main character following his suit?
So, I mean, I know from what we've said here that I don't think Rob gets chapters ever. So, but he would be obviously the logical assumption to kind of take over that king role.
Well, he did.
He's going to be the king of the North. What?
I'm just saying he did. In his last chapter, he got named King of the North. How about the Rob and Great John scene where Great John gets his fingers cut off? How about that scene?
Yeah, we forgot about that.
That scene is, I mean, there's a million great scenes in the show, but like he just stands there and is like, your meat is bloody tough, and has his fucking fingers are gone. Dude, it's so good. So good.
I guess that's another storyline I want to see is just how Rob reacts to that. Because like I said before, I think I said it during that Rob chapter. I didn't think he had ambitions to be like in charge of everybody like that. Kind of like Ned. And I guess that's kind of where I got it from, was where Ned didn't want anything to do with King's Landing. He didn't want anything to do with being that in charge. He just wanted to be at home, and be in charge of Winterfell. And that was it. So like just to see how Rob handles it is that's probably another cool part of the next book. Something to look forward to.
So for show versus book, who do you think had and you can do multiple people, like the best matching up for appearance? And like when you saw them, you're like, that does not, there was somebody.
I know one that's way off.
Benjamin was ugly as fuck.
Or you don't think that he matches a show? I think he looks very Stark-like though. I think he looks more Stark-like.
Probably, but he didn't look like Rob or Ned's brother.
No,
rather.
but I think Benjamin looks way more Starky than Ned does because he has a
longer
face
and
black hair.
Yep.
It was just kind of like, it was like, what? But like I said, that's not his fault. He just had a weird face to me.
Mine is Jorah. Jorah's
Jorah
does not look like what he looks like in the books.
And like almost like gorilla looking with how hairy he is and like
broad
shouldered.
He's bald head, right?
Head. He and like Ian, whatever that guy's name is, a great looking, like a really good looking dude, right? I mean, he's kind of old, but he's like.
I mean, I guess
he's like a Harrison. I feel like he has like a Harrison Ford. Like
he wouldn't have said.
I
wouldn't have said he was the best looking guy on the show. But
I feel like he's got like a Harrison Ford, like George Clooney, like whatever those guys got going for him, he's got going for him too.
They're just aging like
Jeff
fine
wine.
Exactly. Yeah, Jeff likes Brand.
Yeah, younger the better.
Yeah. I mean, I think besides like for the kids, except for their age, I think the kids look really good. Arya, I think, is too attractive. They describe her as kind of ugly, horse face, and they call her horse face.
I mean, she was like a 7-year-old kid.
They like literally she gets picked on for being ugly though.
Yeah, as a 7-year-old, all girls go through the weird stage.
Maisie Williams is like 9 when she started filming. She does not look like a 7-year-old, or she's not look ugly.
Yeah. Think about all the girls who grew up with in high school or in like elementary school. Like they all grew.
I'm just saying.
All right. Yeah, no, I get it. They called her horse face Ari.
Yeah.
She didn't look like she had a horse face.
Anybody else? I don't for appearance in the show.
I'm bad with that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm very easily swayed.
I mean, Sam's pretty good.
I kind of want to see what you thought because I figured you and Glow are the ones who read first. I figured you'd have your book mental pictures before the show, and then when you see the show, you're like, that's not what I would.
I don't give them like facial features and stuff in my mind. It's just kind of like Rob, like a big floating name, kind of not quite, but you know what I'm saying.
I'm kind of with Kyle that way.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I'm the same as you. Like I read all the Harry Potters before, or whatever ones were out, and I was like, oh shit, her name's actually Hermione. And I was like pronouncing it Hermione the first fucking like 3 years.
I guess it's also tough when you have Glow voice acting half the characters, and so they all have the exact same voice.
They're all the same.
That is such bullshit. I only voice act 2 people, so
Ned
get
and John.
fucked, Nelson.
Ned and John.
Viserys is a really good. I think
that's a good one.
Description to character. Khal Drogo as well.
Drogo's
with Jason. I mean, he's Jason. Who else would you have picked
cool.
other than
Jason Momoa?
Jason Momoa?
Yeah, for casting for sure. He's awesome.
The Rock with the fucking wig on, maybe.
Yeah, and I don't even know. Like Momoa had that like look in his eye, like he was gonna fucking rape everybody.
Rip your tongue out.
If you could get rid of going to the book, if you could get rid of any POVs or add any POVs, and we kind of touched on it with the Rob thing, but like, is there any characters you think you would? And I'll tell you, everyone except for Ned continues their POVs into the second book, and we get 2 new ones, but I won't tell you who they are till we get to them.
Yeah, I mean, like Tywin is probably would be an interesting one.
It's a good one.
Tywin would be
And
really cool.
what's her name, Lysa? I mean, like I guess that would spread everybody out. Is where I'm at with that. Like, not because I like either of them particularly. I don't mind Tywin so much, and Lysa's crazy, and she's even crazier in the show. Back to that, talking about the show stuff, and
she's
like,
a psycho.
Yeah, just kind of nips hanging out all the time, and that was really weird. Do you think that kid really had a boob in his mouth? That was another question.
Was she breastfeeding in the show?
Yeah.
Oh my god. What's worse, a dragon?
Do you think it was real? Is the
breastfeeding
question?
or
No, it wasn't
the kid
real.
breastfeeding?
But I think he's way older in the show too. Like
The
he's
dragons
old
weren't
as fuck.
breastfeeding the show.
He's like 7 or 8 in the.
Yeah, but I'm saying, what's weirder?
I think he's like 7 or 8 in the books.
The
Kid's like
old kid.
12 in the show.
And he doesn't look as frail. He's one I didn't think really matched either. He didn't look as frail as they made him.
I agree.
Yeah, concurred.
But it was it was a little much. I think that would probably be the best 2 to add because, like I said,
they're pretty good ones. If I had to think, maybe like, and it might be one that like takes out the ambiguity of the story, but like Varys would be cool.
That's what I was going to say. Is Littlefinger and Varys, one of them, to get some of their plots.
That might give you, they're plotting maybe too much, and you don't want to know.
Exactly, and I think that's kind of like I said with the Rob stuff. It kind of fits into that. Like not knowing exactly what happened is probably better for the story reasons.
Maybe one Stannis chapter to give us something to go off of.
I don't know how you would like
to what he's doing.
I don't know how you would put this character in and like get rid of. You might be able to get rid of some Ned chapters, I guess. But if you put Robert in, I think it'd be cool to get like 4 or 5 Robert chapters. Like I thought
you mean for this book? Okay, I was talking about.
I would have liked Robert.
Oh, going forward. Yeah.
I mean Robert would have been all right, but I don't know. I mean,
give him the give him the chapter where he shows it, like where they're in the crypts, because like that Ned chapter, him and Robert are together the entire time. Give that to Robert. You show him like the hate about
where they ride out to the countryside.
You can give that to Robert too. Then you can give some of the ones in King's Landing to Robert. So the breastplate stretcher one, maybe not, because Ned goes and sees Sir Hugh.
I think a cooler one where you might be able to dig into more of Rob's feelings if we really want to do that was when he made Ned kill Lady.
Yeah, that seemed to be a good one too.
I was thinking that too, but at the same time, it would have just been him being like, "I don't give a fuck. Yeah, kill the wolf.
Yeah,
I'm sick of this shit."
Yeah. But they could have, if it was his POV and it was George writing, they could have wrote in like, "This fucking lady, like, I can't fucking stand her." With stuff that he didn't say out loud, his thoughts would have been a little bit deeper, I think.
Yeah,
like he could have been like, "Oh, Ned, like, I feel so bad about Ned, but I'm a king and I've got to do this because it's my boy," and blah, 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 blah. Like, it just could have.
His thought process could have been like, how is this kid mine? How did he lose to a girl with a stick or something like that?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wait, it's not actually your kid, Dalton.
So why, like, did Cersei lose a kid in the books?
Not in the books.
Okay.
No. I think she tells Ned. I think there's literally a scene in the book where Ned confronts her, and Ned's like, "Are any of them his?" And she's like, "No, I never." She's like, "I always found other ways to finish him off." Like she literally says, "Like I never had a kid from him." She tells Ned that it already happened. We already read it.
But why didn't she though? Like that was
it would have been
kind of
way
one of my
smarter.
questions.
Yeah, just do it one time.
You don't think she ever took his seed?
Just opened 2 beers like an idiot. She said she didn't.
I felt like that was
Well,
like after
down,
a couple of months of being in an awful marriage, and she's like, "All right, never mind. I got my brother here."
The rest of my family, apparently.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she said, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure she said she never did. To Ned in the books.
But I thought she told somebody in the show.
In the show, she said she got an abortion, right?
Yeah, she tells Kat that she had a black-haired baby, a black-haired beauty, who died when he was like 2 or something. Made it a decent amount of time.
Oh, was that in the show or in the books?
It's in the show. Not in the books. That's what I was telling Kyle. Kyle was like, there's spoilers here. And I was like, no, there's not. That's not in this. And then he just rattled off like 3 or 4 other ones. But that one is a show only thing. Which I guess maybe is a spoiler in itself that we're saying that it's not happening. My last thing was like, besides like least favorite, are there any characters that you like just don't find interesting? Like their characters are interesting, like not their chapters or their POVs, but the character themselves. I guess we said Sansa.
I mean, Dany's pretty hateable.
I'm not a huge.
I know Jeff's got a soft spot for Dany, but I don't care about her that much.
I got a soft spot for Amelia Clark, but
I'm not a huge fan of either Jon or Dan. I'm not a huge fan of the characters who are on their own.
Yeah, I agree. It's rough when you're like immersed into it and you get pulled away.
I think like when we go through and talked like how we went through and talked about every single character, like I think they all had a pretty decent arc. Like it's impressive to give 9 characters a pretty decent story arc throughout a single book all at the same time, right?
And even sub characters within that have a solid arc.
Yeah, I mean everything's like climaxing and concluding at the same time, right? Like Arya's seen her dad die and then escape. Jon is trying to escape and then going north of the wall. Dany's husband dies and then births all these kids, right? Like everyone is climaxing. Like it all ties. Like it all happens at the exact same time. You could argue Tyrion's happens a little bit earlier and then. But like a lot of it's all at the very end.
But he's now on a new mission.
It's crazy to tie that shit in together. Exactly. I mean, and all of it like not only climaxes and ends at the same time.
Stop saying climaxes.
A lot of it bounces off. Like,
all that comes.
A lot of it is like ready to go off. Right.
They all finish at the same time.
Besides like Ned, none of these stories like not any of these stories that I can think of are like a standstill or a dead end. Really. Maybe.
Well, yeah, none of them are ending. There's 6 more books or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, they're all like kind of at cliffhangers. Like Jon, like going north of the wall. Dany just gave birth to dragons. Arya got pulled into a thing. Like Sansa's is the least like. Tyrion, you're going to King's Landing to rule. Like like everything. Is
I don't know what's going to happen with Sansa. To be honest, it's going to be interesting to find out in a way. Just kind of how subservient she is to Joffrey, and if she grows to resent him, or if she grows to like him. It's kind of up in the air. Not like him, but just tolerate him and tolerate being around him.
Yeah.
But
Glow, any other big questions for Kyle, or we cover all yours?
I mean, he kind of answered it throughout this discussion, but besides, what happens with Arya, and you kind of know what's happening with her, and you already said that you're interested in what Rob's going to do, but is there any other, questions or things that you're looking forward to have answered in the next?
I mean, the fight's not over either. That's the other side of it here.
This war.
Yeah, they're still Harrenhal to deal with. So that's obviously, I think, the main plot point at this point. But
you think that's what Clash of Kings going to center around? Also, the title's called Clash of Kings. You think it's going to center around this war?
Yeah.
This war and
so I guess that probably means what's his name? Renly's going to be coming back. And what is Stannis going to do? I mean, there's definitely a lot of what's going to happen. I don't really have good predictions on them because I don't know that there really is anything to go on.
Yeah, pretty open ended.
But
I don't think we're going to ask for predictions.
No, I know.
So. I was gonna just give a blanket. Do you have any book-wide predictions that because we actually
we kind of went through a lot of that already. Though I think
we covered some of them. Just I
mean, Dany's obviously going to start joining or gathering tribes because now she has the dragons.
I was going to ask where, if I had to ask you for each of the main POVs that we have right now, Dany, Jon, where do you think they'll be at the end of the one book from now? Dany, Jon, it's kind of
Dude,
fucking super open.
Westeros,
alive, dead.
I mean,
Dany's flying dragons around. Like, I know it's super open ended, but like, I don't know how.
It's too hard. It's too hard.
Jeff, you're better at asking.
The dragons don't really come into it too much until later, from what I understand. So I'm gonna leave it at that. You don't have to get into it, but like, she's gonna have the chip. I don't think she's gonna be using them anytime soon. But she's gonna be like, "Join me. I have these dragons. In 5 years, where everything's fucked." Like,
gotcha.
So I don't know. But,
I meant in general for everyone, not just Dany. But
yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's tough. I mean, he's got nothing.
I know.
But where they're headed.
I guess so.
Yeah, there's a lot of words in between now.
So what'd you say about Arya? What'd you say this show told you about Arya?
That she's supposed to be heading to the wall.
Okay. Do you think she's gonna make it? I mean, that's a little bit out of the book talk.
Yeah, and I don't know if Erica said something, but I don't think she's going to make it. Yeah, I yell at her all the time.
Oh.
You don't think she's going to make it to the wall?
But I don't know where she's going to be. No idea.
What did you think of Hot Pie?
Who's Hot Pie?
little fat kid.
The second one she was going to stick. She said, I've already killed one fat boy. I
already stabbed one fat boy.
Yeah. I'm good at it or something. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she seemed pretty all right with killing that kid, too. Like, it was definitely didn't shake her up.
Yeah. Sansa, it's too open-ended. I feel like Tyrion is pretty too open-ended to ask. Like, do you think he's going to make it to King's Landing and do what he's supposed to be doing?
Well, and you just reminded me, that his whole relationship with that girl is way different in the show than in the books. It's like, definitely, like, she has a backstory now. And, like,
in the books?
It's interesting. In the show. Yeah. She's like interesting.
It's weird. She doesn't Tyrion tell the story about him and his whore to her. Yeah. He tells it to
and
in the
Bronn,
books. I think in the books he might tell it to her. He tells it to at least.
But he didn't tell it to her.
He tells it to Bronn in the woods.
Yeah.
They play that drinking game.
With her, they play the
before the
game
battle.
with the candle. Yeah.
Yep. Well, it's after that, but yeah. They play the candle game, and then he says, "Let's play my game.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to tell you something about your past, and if I'm right, you drink it."
And he guesses everything wrong about her.
Yeah. Your mom was a whore.
Yeah. But you're right. That's another thing that a lot of the book fans really criticize.
Funny thing about that actress was she's a porn star from the 90s.
Yeah, you can look up her work.
Look up her work.
She was an actress before being an actress.
Yeah, an adult actress.
Oh fuck! I was trying to think. I had like a question on the tip of my tongue, and it slipped me. Guess the next character that dies.
Could it be anybody, or do you mean next main character that dies?
Nope, it could be anybody. Next character that dies. I'm smiling ear to ear already, so my poker face is already gone.
I thought I was gonna be fine until Jeff covered his own mouth. No.
Why? Oh, because you don't want to give it away.
I just don't want to you guess it. Like my face be like.
Yeah.
Gut feeling.
Blackfish. We'll just go with the Blackfish. Why not? Oh no, it's probably going to be her dad if you want to get into any of that. Catelyn's dad.
It's a good guess.
That is a good guess. Too good of a guess.
My last question is just a stupid one. Is who do you think the best fighter is, Kyle, from everyone we've seen?
Bronn.
If you had a 1v1, you would stake Bronn versus anybody I choose.
I mean, I think he proved himself.
In a trial by combat, me versus you, you would choose Bronn if I had to choose anybody. I choose the mountain. I would choose. I mean, if you choose Bronn, I'd probably choose the mountain. Not that I think the mountain's the best, but I think he would be. I think he's got a great shot against Bronn. I think like Jaime or Barristan is probably.
I think Jaime would.
I don't think Jaime's as good as he says.
Yeah, we've never seen Jaime fight, but like they talk a big game.
I mean, Jaime's just rumored to be the man.
He killed like
Jaime.
4 people guarding Rob.
Would you say?
Everybody does hate him, but it doesn't take away his talent.
You don't pick him if he's the best fighter.
But he. I mean, the only person we know of him killing is the king, and he stabbed him in the back.
In the show, he at least tells more stories of his valor. He when in the scene where it's actually a great scene in the show where Robert's talking to Barristan. Robert and Barristan are inside Robert's room and he's lazy. He was your first kill. He's talking about how he killed some guy with his worm. He's like, now he probably wakes 4 nights to piss in a bowl. Why? And then Lancel doesn't have any wine and he gets all pissed off. tells Lancel to come off. Then he calls Jaime in. He's like, now you're just a fucking bodyguard. He's like, you have to sit out there where I eat, drink, shit, and whore. He's like, they were talking about first kills. And then Jaime just like shows everyone up. And Barristan's like, yeah, I was there. He's right. He fucking went off.
I don't remember what he said though.
He said like he killed like he said he killed a knight of the Kingswood Brotherhood while I think in the book, like later it might talk about the book, he was squying for somebody we know. Kills a bunch of people in the Kingswood Brotherhood, which again, it was like a long time ago. We don't know what that is, but he kills like, I think Barristan's like, yeah, you killed 4 men that day or something like that.
I did think it was funny that they had him posted up outside. Robert makes him post up every time he has a whore.
Yeah. Such a great move.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think Bronn's just the only one that's really proved himself.
I think the show is tinting your mind.
No, I mean, even in the book, who else did anything in the book?
Jaime killed 4 of Rob's personal guard.
Was that Jaime or his men?
That was Jaime.
What? When
they ambushed him in the street.
In the Whispering Wood.
Oh, Rob's personal guard.
Ned.
Not Ned. No.
Did I say Ned?
Rob. No. Rob. Glow's right. He's saying Ned.
Rob Stark's personal guard in the
so
Whispering Wood.
We
he
were all
killed 4
thinking
of his
Ned.
personal guard.
He chopped down a
woods?
bunch of them, right?
In the Whispering Woods. Yeah, he went off in the Whispering Woods.
He was like, oh, I'm going after Rob, and he chopped down a bunch of them until like a couple of people.
Yeah, we don't see it, but we hear that he fucking went off.
Yeah, and I don't know how good his personal guard is. Like, that's the thing. Like, these weren't the best. Like, I don't know.
They're the Northmen. They're the fucking. They said, "Yo, you need to protect him."
But they were the Young Bucks.
Well, and they really did Ned dirty in the show. Like, him getting stabbed in the back of the leg and stuff like that. I knew they couldn't make a horse fall.
That wasn't as fun as.
I would say the top contenders for best fighter are.
Jory also goes off in the books and doesn't go off in the show. He gets stabbed in the back of the eye.
Like pretty much
like 2 or 3 in the books.
Yeah.
Where's the frag count out, Nelson?
I haven't updated it. Fuck. I should have for this podcast. If I had to go top 10 or top 5, I would put, I don't know what order, but Jaime, just from like rumor from this chapter or from this book, Jaime, Mountain Hound, Loras. Just because Mountain Hound Loras went off in the tourney. We hear about Jaime.
Loras
isn't Loras only a tourney fighter though? Like he's never actually had to fight.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I think he's rumored to be a pretty good knight, but it's all like tourney shit. Like he fights in the melees too, I'm assuming, and it's probably pretty good.
He's
the dude with the flaming sword.
Barrack.
Thoros. Barrack and Thoros went out together.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I had. That's all the questions I had.
No, you only went through 3. You said 5. Who are the other ones?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Jaime and Barristan.
Okay.
Just those 2 are again from rumor. We hear those guys are badass. But
Barristan's let 2 kings die.
But he's the one that like Bran's hyped up about at the beginning.
Yeah,
I mean that's what they say. Bran's hyped up about him. Tywin even says like. I guess what Tywin says is he lends honor to whoever he serves. Not necessarily that he's good at fighting, but either way.
Jeffrey Lannister pulling out he let 2 kings die. That's why they dismissed him. Yeah.
Joffrey's cousin, Jeffrey.
All right, anything else? Are we next chapter we're getting into Clash?
Let's get into it.
I think you found your new longest podcast though.
No, this one's only
no spoilers though, so
I know, but it's almost 2 hours long.
So we're good.
No, I have only an hour 38. The one I just published was an hour 55 after editing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad.
A lot of Glow yelling. Just gotta shut up, Glow.
No, that was the one where we pulled Kyle in as a special guest in the spoiler section. I actually edited out a half-hour long conversation that we had in the spoiler section just because it was the podcast was way too fucking long. We like went off. Was
it a good conversation?
You said the fans are gonna like this conversation, but I had edited it out.
Bonus app. Give them a bonus app.
It wasn't about Danny and I. It wasn't about the chapter at all. It was all about like how the timing of the books doesn't line up. It's kind of like what we're talking about now. How the timing of some of the chapters in the books doesn't line up to the show for certain stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Oh.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
That's it for the first book of A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones. Well, Kyle, we will see you on the next episode for Clash of Kings. Get ready for the prologue, boys. We've got a long haul ahead of us.
Woohoo! Bye-bye.
We're starting over.